Can you trust Taliban? This is not a different Taliban. It's the same Taliban which is repressive against the girls. And should a country, self-respecting country such as India, which prides itself on the democratic ethos, be engaging with a terror country?
This is a choice you always face in geopolitics. Before 2021, India never officially reached out to Taliban. This was probably one of the biggest mistakes India made. I think the time has come for India to be more pragmatic towards Afghanistan.
Hello and welcome to Unacademy. Welcome to the first episode of our brand new program, The World That Was, where we will discuss important geopolitical updates, discuss them, debate them, dissect them. So if you're an aspirant preparing for the civil services examination or generally interested in geopolitics, watch this space and we promise to give you unbiased, genuine knowledge through these episodes. Joining us today is India's topmost educator for international relations, Chetan Narayan-Swamy. Chetan, lot of interesting updates in geopolitics in the last 30 days. We saw the visit of Afghanistan's foreign minister to India. We also saw clashes and then a ceasefire between Pakistan and Afghanistan. We saw an important strategic mutual defense agreement signed by Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and then the Gaza peace plan brokered in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt by United States and various other smaller players. Let's discuss all of them one by one. But first up, Afghanistan's Taliban government, their foreign minister visiting India, Amir Muttaqi, and he was given a warm welcome in India. We have also elevated our diplomatic relations with Afghanistan, elevated it to the status of an embassy. What is your initial reaction to the grand welcome which was given to the Afghanistan foreign minister in India?
Sarwat, see, this is a complete turnaround of Indian diplomacy towards Afghanistan, particularly towards the Taliban itself. As you know, India and Taliban have been hostile to each other throughout the past. In 1996, when they captured power for the first time, Taliban shut down the Indian embassy. They kicked out the Indian diplomats. India had broken all ties with Taliban. And we saw Taliban as a terrorist entity. Though, from an academic perspective, Taliban is more of an extremist political organization which engages in insurgency. It was seen as a terrorist outfit from India's perspective. That was mainly because the way in which Taliban was used by the Pakistani deep state. For Pakistan, Afghanistan was a strategic depth. And Taliban, being a puppet of the ISI and the Pakistani army, allowed them to cultivate anti-India terrorist outfits, be it Lashkar, Hizbul Mujahideen and the others. But now things have turned around. The time has come for India to be more pragmatic and engage in real politics towards Afghanistan. For example, if you look at Myanmar, we have been comfortable in dealing with a military regime from 1960s. We have never had issues with the atrocities they have committed internally. And there we have prioritized national interests. So why can't we do the same with Afghanistan, which is all the more important for our national security? Because Pakistan has used the Afghan border areas especially for grooming the terrorist modules. And it has set up the necessary infrastructure which has been diverted towards India. Be it the Khalistan movement, Kashmir insurgency, separatism. It has all been tied to the same terror network. So by engaging with Taliban, we can keep a check on the terror and the extremist developments in the region.
Can you trust Taliban?
Right now, you can. Because see, Taliban is also looking for legitimacy. Right from 2021, this time the Taliban has been slightly different. At least externally, at least that's what they're projecting. Because they want global recognition. They want to be seen as the sovereign government of Afghanistan. And right now their funds are frozen. They're not able to draw in any assistance from any organization or any country. And imagine recognition from a country like India, the largest democracy.
Have we recognized them yet?
Not yet. Officially, India has not recognized the Taliban regime. In fact, no country has recognized except for Russia. Russia is the only one which has officially given diplomatic recognition. But as you said, we have upgraded the technical mission in Kabul to the status of an embassy. This is a diplomatic gray area. But it shows that India is warming up to the Taliban. And ever since our contact with Taliban in the last 4 years, we have been slowly reaching out to the higher levels of the leadership. And the very fact that we gave state honor to a designated terrorist, Amir Muttaqi is a terrorist designated by the UN Security Council. So taking the approval of the UN and inviting him and giving him the state honor is a big step for India.
But that's what precisely Donald Trump also did with the head of the HTS in Syria,
Right.
a globally recognized terrorist, but he was given recognition by United States. But coming back to your point, when you said this time Taliban is different, this is what kept floating in the newspapers as well when Taliban recaptured Afghanistan after United States disappeared. We thought that this is a different Taliban. But there were some commentators who said, no, this is not a different Taliban. It's the same Taliban, but what they have learned is the art of diplomacy.
Yeah.
It's the same Taliban which is repressive against the girls, against the women, their
against
education,
minorities.
against the minorities. So how is this Taliban different? And should a country, self-respecting country such as India, which prides itself on the democratic ethos, be engaging with a terror country?
This is a choice you always face in geopolitics, the choice between the idealist school of thought and the realist school of thought. I think the time has come for India to be more pragmatic towards Afghanistan, given the challenges we are facing from Pakistan and the kind of alliances Pakistan has been building, be it with the US, be it with Saudi Arabia. So it is essential for India to cultivate those networks in Afghanistan. If you look at the last 2 decades, the Afghan civilian government which was there was very actively cultivated by the Indian leadership. We invested $3 billion in the country.
Yes.
And Afghanistan is not just about countering Pakistan and terrorism.
It's access to Central Asia.
Access to Central Asia, the projects that we have invested in, it's blessed with resources as well. We had mining access to the mines in Afghanistan. So if we have to leverage the investments, protect those investments, because in the past, big sacrifices have been made. Indian workers have put in a lot of effort. Indian diplomats have been killed in the line of duty in Afghanistan. So you need to protect those strategic investments as well. So in that regard, being realistic but cautious, I think should be the way forward. And I think credit should be given to the Modi government for cultivating those ties with Taliban.
But then why were we late in giving warm welcome to Taliban?
Before 2021, India never officially reached out to Taliban. This was probably one of the biggest mistakes India made. Because even Russia...
It was a mistake.
It was a mistake, absolutely. Because when US was talking to Taliban, they were already way ahead in terms of striking a deal with them. Because their priority was to remove the troops and exit the country as soon as possible. And if US was talking to them, European countries already had engagement with Taliban. Russia, because the Soviet Union, the history, if you look at the past of the Afghan conflict, it was the Mujahideen which had defeated the Soviet forces, and Russia had no hesitation in engaging with Taliban. Then why should we?
If Russia is being realist, so we should also have
that.
So better late than never.
Better late than never. Ideally, it should have happened before, but at least glad it has happened.
What are the concerns that we have to keep track of when it comes to engagement with Taliban? What should we be worried of?
Concerns would be their internal behavior, as you pointed out, the way they treat women, the way they treat minorities. Because in India as well, when Muttaqi held a press conference, no women journalists were invited.
We called it a technical matter.
Technical matter, but ideally India shouldn't have allowed this to happen. At least not on Indian soil. That sent out a wrong message. India should keep in mind its global image as well. When you're engaging with an extremist outfit, it's always better that you keep a fine balance between your principles. You can't abandon your commitment to democratic principles.
But then the statement of the government of India that Afghan embassy is a sovereign soil of Afghanistan, they are well within their rights to do what they want to do.
But still, when they were state guests in our soil, they should have respected the ethos of the Indian society. And they corrected this as well. That shows India has leverage as well. When there was an outrage against this press conference, Muttaqi almost apologized for this, which you would never see Taliban doing, and they invited women journalists again.
So which means they've learned the art of diplomacy.
And that shows India has some leverage with Taliban as well.
If Pakistan was using Afghanistan as its strategic depth, there was a welcome in Pakistan when Taliban recaptured power in the early 2020s. The then Prime Minister of Pakistan saying that this is Afghanistan, Taliban breaking the shackles of atrocities, misery. What went wrong between Pakistan and Afghanistan? Why are they clashing right now?
This has to do with the Pashtun community, their historical grievances which have been there, and the way in which Pakistan has almost sidelined the Pashtun cause. The Pashtuns, they have never respected the Durand line, the border that was drawn by the British, that divided the Pashtun lands. You find Pashtun community on both the sides of the border, in Afghanistan as well, on the Pakistani side as well. And if you look at the way Pakistan has dealt with the tribal areas,
Merging them with Khyber
Pakhtunkhwa, taking away the autonomy there, and committing human rights violations and using brutal force against civilians. Because just 2-3 weeks back, Pakistan carried out massive strikes in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where many civilians were killed. And Pakistan has no remorse for that. It has taken the same approach it has used in Balochistan, for example. And this is something the Pashtuns would never appreciate. If you look at the history of Pashtuns, they have always fought back against any outside domination. That's the reason why Afghanistan is known as the graveyard of empires. They brought down the British, they brought down the Soviets, they brought down the Americans as well. So they would never take Pakistani oppression or domination over them. So I think that's a mistake, a fatal mistake Pakistan has made. And TTP, the moment it was born in 2007, has always been focused on targeting the Pakistani state.
So this Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, is different from the Afghan Taliban.
They're like brother organizations related to each other ideologically, connected ethnically as well. But with regard to their objectives, they're slightly different.
What are their objectives?
Afghan Taliban wants an Islamic Emirate in Afghanistan, whereas TTP wants an Islamic Emirate in Pakistan. They want to topple the Pakistani state.
Isn't it irony that in Islamic Pakistan, you want a different Islamic version of Islam?
They want their version of the Sharia to be enforced.
And they're also particularly... they resent the Hazaras, the Shias, and others.
The Ahmadiyas as well.
Right.
And if you look at TTP, if you look at the origin of this organization, it again goes back to the way the Pakistani deep state has been cultivating extremists and terrorists in the region. I think I remember Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice. They would say that Pakistan has been nurturing snakes in their backyard. And you can't expect the snakes to bite only your neighbor. It will bite you as well.
Right.
So Pakistan is paying the price for that. The reason for TTP to be formed, it was basically an amalgamation of different Pashtun warlords who were operating in the tribal belt. They saw the duplicity of the deep state of Pakistan. They saw that Pakistan is on one side funding the terrorists, siding with them, backing them. At the same time, it's working with the Americans, passing intelligence to them, enabling CIA drone strikes. And this is what led to the creation of the TTP itself. For now, Pakistan to blame India for this, I think it's pure hypocrisy.
So Pakistan is also blaming Afghanistan Taliban of supporting TTP. That is why Pakistan carried out airstrikes on Kabul, Jalalabad on October 9 this year. And it is not a mere coincidence that the same day the Afghanistan Foreign Minister Amir Muttaqi was in India. So is Pakistan getting nervous because of the diplomatic outreach from the Indian side towards the Afghanistan Taliban?
Absolutely, looks like it. Because there are no coincidences in international relations. On the very same day Muttaqi was to land in India, the strikes in Kabul was a clear message from Islamabad and Rawalpindi that they are sending out a warning to Taliban as well and to India as well, that don't work against us, don't collude against us. But again, Pakistan itself has to be blamed for this. Because if you look at how Afghan Taliban was misused, Taliban has always been about maintaining its sovereignty in Afghanistan. They have been insisting, especially this time, from 2021, they have really drawn that line that they don't want to be a puppet of Pakistani state. They want to establish their sovereignty. They want to administer the region, govern the region. We didn't see this back in 96 when they came to power.
So we can safely say that Taliban, when it was out of power in Afghanistan, there was a civilian government in Afghanistan. But when they recaptured Afghanistan, till that point, Pakistan was supporting Taliban. So it was a patron-client relationship. And then this patron-client relationship changed into state-to-state relationship. Now, Afghanistan, which is led by Taliban, would not want to be seen as a client of a patron country.
Absolutely. And Pakistan has not respected that. It has not accepted the fact that Taliban is now a state entity, whether you like it or not, whether it has global recognition or not. They are the interim regime in Afghanistan. And Pakistan is not accepting the fact. And it is true, Afghan Taliban does extend some support because TTP does have safe havens across the Durand line.
Is it organizational, logistical support, or is it only ideological?
I think both. Ideological as well, some organizational, logistical support as well. Because there have been reports in international media of flow of arms from Afghan Taliban to the TTP.
And look at the irony. Operation Sindoor, the government of India giving a free hand to the armed forces to carry out attacks on the terror infrastructure in Pakistan. This is the same ploy used by Pakistan now against Afghanistan. Since you are harboring terrorists, it's our democratic right, international right to defend ourselves.
True.
Absolutely. And you were mentioning Afghanistan as the graveyard of empires. Slightly probing into that, you spoke of how in the 19th and 20th century, the mighty British Empire was defeated. Then in 1979 to 1989, the Soviet Union was pulverized by the Afghan communities, which is amalgamation of various Pashtuns, Uzbeks, Tajiks, and others, supported by CIA and ISI. The jihadists were supported by the CIA. And then in 2022, when United States finally withdrew from Afghanistan. But maybe, how far would you agree that this is a modern geopolitical construct, that Afghanistan is a graveyard of empires? Because in modern world, they've defeated the three mighty armies. But if you look at the history, Alexander controlled Afghanistan, the Mongols controlled Afghanistan. So this phrase, Afghanistan as the graveyard of empires, may not have been true in the past.
In the past. Maybe it's a construct of modern times, contemporary times. And geopolitics has a lot to do with this. And again, it's largely the misuse of religion, the misinterpretation of religion that US, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have enabled, which led to the rise of the Mujahideen as well. Maybe if not for the funding and the radicalization, I don't think the Pashtuns would have resisted outside control and domination to this extent.
And this conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan, now finally there is a ceasefire. This ceasefire has been brokered by Qatar, a smaller country which is now playing a very important role in mediating bigger conflicts.
Yeah.
What's your take on Qatar emerging as a mediator on global force?
Qatar might be a very small country geographically, but geopolitically, they have been punching their weight above what this...
And punching it well.
Very well. As you're aware, they hosted the Taliban's political office.
Right.
When Taliban had no representation or recognition at all. They played a...
In Doha.
They played a fundamental role in mediating between US, when Donald Trump was the president for the first time, with the Taliban. They were instrumental for the first deal, the US-Taliban peace agreement, which happened. And now with Hamas and Israel, they host the Hamas leadership as well. And this has to do with the fact that Qatar has played all sides really well. They're very close to the Americans. US has a big military presence as well in Qatar. They have a lot of funds which come from the US. And Qatar is a major gas exporter. And Qatar also buys weapons from the American defense industry. They are very close to Israeli leadership, plus the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas as well.
And yes, Qatar is the only country which has been bombed both by Iran as well as Israel.
I think they got caught in between.
But later, Israel apologized.
Yeah.
It said, we are sorry for violating your sovereignty and we will not repeat it again.
Right. But again, this has to do with Israel's audacity as well, the blatant way in which they have violated sovereignty across the region, from Lebanon to Yemen to Iran to now Qatar. I mean, it looks like there was an attempt to sabotage the peace process. Or else, why would you target the leadership which is mediating a peace process? That too in a foreign country. Maybe that was an attempt to completely sabotage the peace process itself.
And do you agree with this so-called conspiracy theory that Hamas was the creation of Israel?
There are credible records to show that, at least to some extent, if not entirely, because the creation of Hamas was more linked with Egypt, with the Muslim Brotherhood. There are well-established records of linking Egyptian intelligence with Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. Because again, this goes back to Egypt's control over Gaza before the 1967 war. But now Israel looks at Hamas as an entity which can, delay the creation of Palestine itself. Because more the extremism from the Palestinian side, they can keep pushing the two-state plan, ensure Palestine is never created. Because there have been records showing funding from Netanyahu's party to Qatar. The funding have been channeled to Hamas leadership.
Through Qatar?
Through Qatar. So that's very interesting. And that shows Israel maybe never wants the creation of Palestine to happen.
So we have discussed the Afghanistan's foreign minister's visit to India. We discussed the conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan and the role Qatar has played in these negotiations.
And suppose if I can interject, there's one very interesting development, the Deobandi connection which India tried exploring. Experts are calling it India's religious diplomacy, but some are warning as well that we shouldn't be playing with...
For our audience, can you explain what that Deobandi
Amir
connection was?
Muttaqi was invited as a guest at Darul Ulum Deoband in Uttar Pradesh, which is the birthplace of the Deobandi school of thought. It's an Islamic seminary that dates back to 1860s. It was founded right after the first war of Indian independence. And students of history would know the Deobandi school of thought played a big role in our freedom struggle as well. And this serves as the fountainhead of Islamic ideology in the South Asian belt, even in Pakistan and Afghanistan.
The political Islam.
The political Islam, exactly. In the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa belt, the ideological source for Taliban itself, the Mujahideen, is the Deobandi school of thought. It was in 1947, right after partition, one of the teachers from Deoband, from UP, Abdul Haq, he would travel to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and establish the Haqqaniya school of thought, which would serve as the ideology for the Haqqani network, which is a branch of the Taliban itself. And it's the same ideology which has inspired Taliban and the Mujahideen. So Muttaqi, when he delivered the address at Deoband, he said Taliban is the alma mater. So they are referring to that ideological connection. Maybe India is sending out a message to Pakistan that, because see, Pakistan has tried to dissociate itself from the Islamic lineage, the unique South Asian Islamic heritage. And maybe India is sending out that message to Pakistan by encouraging this religion-based diplomacy. But this could easily backfire as well.
How?
Because the Wahhabist school of thought, the Salafist school of thought, which comes up, that could be highly problematic for India. Because India is at war with the very same ideology which breeds terrorism against the country.
And why do you think the government did what it did?
As I said, maybe this is a subtle message to Pakistan that
there are other ways
of giving
messages to Pakistan.
Yeah, other ways to get back at Pakistan, the links, the close bonds that exist between Indians and Afghans. Afghan people have always been very close to India. So tapping the cultural link, the religious connection.
And look at the cricket matches between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The tensions are high, emotions are high. And that is not something that we see when Afghanistan plays India.
Yeah.
So the cultural ties, that Aman Ki Asha type cultural exchanges would have been a much better way of sending a signal to Pakistan.
Yeah.
In fact, our movies are very popular in Afghanistan.
Very popular in Afghanistan. Indian actors are very popular in Afghanistan.
I remember when Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the Parliament House in Kabul, he quoted a song, Yari Hai Iman Mera, Yar Meri Zindagi,
right.
Which was played by Pran, who was playing the role of a Pathan, an Afghan Pathan in that movie.
Right.
So there are other ways of getting back to Pakistan than using religion as a card.
That's where it can be very dicey. It can be risky as well. Because you need to think how
you don't read enough commentary on this in the news.
In India?
In India, yes.
There have been few critical articles as well regarding why India is embracing the Taliban. Isn't it problematic for India's image? How can you cultivate ties with the extremist organization? There have been reports in mainstream media as well. A lot of critics have pointed this out. But as I said, national interest defines right now that India should work with Taliban, at least to some extent, at least to protect our core interests, which is our investments, which is countering Pakistan and terrorism and retaining access to Central Asia. But this could also be a leverage. Who knows, maybe India can try to influence Taliban's behavior to some extent, if not entirely.
And what do you make of the Pakistan Defense Minister's statement that Afghanistan is now the proxy of India?
Pakistan's Defense Minister, Mr. Khwaja, is known for making these eccentric statements. But again, Taliban would never be a proxy of India. If they reject Pakistan's dominance over them, there's no reason why they would accept India's support or sponsorship.
So Afghanistan Taliban is also behaving like a state. Prioritizing its own national interest over everything else.
Absolutely. They look at themselves as the sovereign state, the sovereign authority of Afghanistan. So they wouldn't be keen to play this proxy war with Pakistan. Of course, enemy's enemy would be a friend, maybe diplomatically, but alleging that India is funding them, arming them, I think that's taking it too far. Because Pakistan has never given a shred of evidence to prove these links.
And they won't.
Ideally, they should have. If they had evidence, they should have presented this. Because India has done it. We have exposed the Pakistani state, their links with terrorist groups. If Pakistan has that evidence, let them share it. They've been alleging this with Baloch groups as well.
Right.
They allege this with TTP as well. They say TTP is an Indian creation. If they have those evidence, they let them share it in front of the world.
Great. Now, what do you make of this big security pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, which for our audience, it means that if a country is attacking Saudi Arabia, it means an attack on Pakistan. And if a country is attacking Pakistan, it means an attack on Saudi Arabia.
The principle of collective defense.
Collective defense, something on which NATO also is built. What do you think of this? Is it targeted at India, or is the audience Israel?
The audience is completely different. This agreement followed immediately after the Israeli strikes in Doha, which you pointed out. So Saudi Arabia was a little on the back foot because Israel has been dominating West Asian geopolitics. They have almost decimated Iran's role in the region. They have taken out Iran's proxies from Hezbollah to Hamas, the Houthis. So Saudi Arabia was probably looking at some sort of a defense shield.
Because they don't trust United States.
They don't trust the United States at all with this. If US couldn't protect Qatar, then there's no reason why US would come to the defense of
So Saudi Arabia engaging with Pakistan, signing this strategic mutual defense agreement is not targeted at India, it is targeted at Israel.
Israel, and it's mostly symbolic as well. I highly doubt if Pakistan would really commit troops, if at all, hypothetically, let's say, a larger conflict were to break out, where Israel were to target Saudi and Saudi allies. Would Pakistan really step into the conflict?
What about the Pakistani nuclear weapons?
See, there's a very interesting history behind this, Sarmad.
Pakistani nuclear program was funded by
Saudi Arabia. Exactly. That's the point I was coming to. In fact, even without this agreement, let's keep this agreement aside.
So that's what the Saudi establishment will say. We don't need to manufacture a nuclear.
We can just get it from Pakistan. We can just loan it from Pakistan. There is some element of truth to it because Pakistan has been playing a defense role in Saudi Arabia and in West Asia from a long time. For example, in 1950s and 60s, there was a crisis in Yemen where Egypt was funding an insurgency. And this was a threat to Saudi Arabia. So Pakistani troops were deployed to contain the security threat. The seas of Mecca.
Yes.
By there, again, Pakistani special forces were involved in the operation. And there's always been a lot of close defense collaboration between Saudi armed forces and Pakistani armed forces. Same at the diplomatic and leadership level. They are very close to each other at the intelligence level as well. Now they are just formalizing it and trying to send out a message to Israel. But maybe Pakistan is hoping someday Saudi Arabia will come to their support against India as well, which is highly unlikely to happen because Saudi policy towards India has completely shifted since 2010, since the Riyadh declaration when Manmohan Singh visited Riyadh. Since then, Saudi approach towards India has changed completely. They have de-hyphenated India and Pakistan. They know India is the future for them, for investments. They have multi-billion-dollar investments in our country. It's not just a buyer-seller relationship anymore between India and Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia knows very well that India is a long-term strategic partner. They would never threaten that relationship to come to the defense of Pakistan. Maybe they would play the role of a mediator. I think we saw that during Operation Sindoor as well. Saudi foreign minister was in Delhi, was in Islamabad, playing a back-channel role. So that might be there, but Saudi Arabia taking a hostile stand against India, I think is highly unlikely.
What do you think? Should the government of India have raised this matter with the Saudi Arabians, asking them to clarify what this agreement is all about?
Internally, they would have, I'm sure. But publicly, again, it would be as if you're questioning a friend, a trusted partner. India has enough faith. Even if you look at the statements that were given by the foreign ministry, India reposed that faith in Saudi Arabia, that Saudi Arabia is a trusted strategic partner and we don't see any threat from them.
Do you think that there is declining influence of India in West Asia, in global politics now? Considering what happened in Nepal, perhaps we were taken by surprise and we are now a mute bystander as to what is happening in Nepal. Our neighbor, Bangladesh, we thought we put all the eggs in one basket in the form of Sheikh Hasina. Now she's gone. She's in India as a refugee. And now the interim government headed by Muhammad Yunus made inflammatory remarks against India from the Chinese soil. Sri Lanka is another country where there is an influence of China. China is trying to fish in the troubled waters in our neighborhood, whether it is Myanmar or initially in Maldives. Yeah. And now in the Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, the Gaza peace plan that we will discuss now, India was not part of it. Although we sent our MOS, but leadership was not present there. Is it that India is being sidelined, or is it the sovereign decision taken by the government of India that we don't want to be part of this negotiation?
Because see, India was given the invite, as you pointed out. Trump, according to reports, had personally invited Prime Minister Modi as well to be part of the Sharm el-Sheikh summit. Maybe it was purely logistical reasons because the notice given was hardly 24 hours. And maybe the PM would have other commitments as well. But given how important the summit was, probably PM could have maybe made some time. Should have probably. But again, India would have taken other considerations into account. Because how would it look for India-Israel relationship? How would it look for India's ties with West Asia? And there we are balancing the Shia and the Sunni powers as well.
But if Israel has committed to this peace plan, if Qatar, UAE, Egypt, Turkey, they have also agreed to this and they are part of this Gaza peace plan. So what was the thinking process in India? How would participating in this peace summit would have antagonized either the Israelis or the Muslim world?
Or probably the thinking was more about the image of India and the Prime Minister himself. India's role in the entire war has been very limited. We have been very cautious in making statements as well, or in condemning Israel's use of disproportionate force. So maybe that was a consideration which was holding back the Indian leadership, probably. But otherwise, with West Asia, we have done really well in the last 10-15 years. Be it with the Shia powers, the Sunni powers, with Israel, we have struck a very good, very fine balance. And the fact that the Gaza peace plan has a commitment for Palestinian statehood, it's one of the promises which has been made. I think that should have led the Indian leadership to participate at the Prime Minister's level.
We have recognized Palestine.
We have recognized Palestine. And the fact that the deal was making a commitment, which Israel was agreeing to as well, should have pushed the Indian leadership to be present at Sharm el-Sheikh. But again, who knows what could have been the reasons? Only the government could clarify on this, I guess.
But you think it was a mistake on part of the government of India not to participate?
Ideally, India should have participated. Because in any such big peace process, right? When the Taliban peace agreement was signed, our complaint was we were never included.
Or do you think the government would have made the right call? Because on paper, this looks like the ceasefire will not last long, because one of the conditions of the peace plan is Hamas has to disarm itself, which it is not. And we have seen the violation of the ceasefire as well in the initial days.
True.
So maybe the government did not want to embarrass itself by participating in a treaty, in a summit, which will not last long.
There's also one more consideration. This peace plan looks more of a neo-colonial imposition again, because Trump's plan is to essentially turn Gaza into a Riviera of the Middle East, turn it into another Dubai or Sharjah. And this has no involvement of Palestinians themselves. There is no role for the Palestinian leadership, the Palestinian Authority. And they're talking of an international governing board headed by global leaders and technocrats. So this is an external imperial imposition of sorts. And
Tony Blair, who is responsible for a war on Iraq.
Illegal war in Iraq.
Illegal. Why do you call it illegal?
There was no basis for the invasion of Iraq. The intelligence was proven to be false. It was deliberately falsified by both London and Washington. And this has been clearly established as
claiming that
Saddam Hussein was building WMDs.
Weapons of mass destruction, which were never found.
Never found.
But Tony Blair apologized after that.
He apologized at least for killing lakhs of people.
Okay, so the West Asia peace plan, the Gaza peace plan, what do you think? Will it hold or not?
Hamas, I don't think they will disarm, because they are certain that Israel will go after them.
Or will Israel not let Hamas disarm?
Interesting. That's a very interesting argument. As we discussed, Israel has a stake in Hamas remaining active, because as long as Hamas remains or any extremist Palestinian outfit remains, they always have a valid reason to keep pushing the two-state plan. And I mean, that's the very root cause of this conflict.
And not just push the two-state plan, but also to infiltrate into the areas of Palestine and
take the territory as well.
Take the territory, let the settlers settle.
Yeah, they've already done this with West Bank. Almost 90% of the territory is already under Israeli control. Now, according to the war cabinet in Israel, they had approved a plan to occupy Gaza as well. And it was only because of the intervention of Trump. I think that's where Trump doesn't get enough credit. He's actually pushed Israel back, honestly.
Is he deserving of a Nobel Peace Prize?
Honestly, yes.
Yes?
Yes. Because if you look at the number of conflicts he has brought to an end, be it Thailand, Cambodia, or be it the conflicts in Africa, Armenia and Azerbaijan as well. The peace treaties that he has managed to strike, it's quite phenomenal. I mean, you don't often see a leader being able to...
What if he is faking all these claims, just like he faked India-Pakistan ceasefire?
But at least some of the participants have acknowledged the role of the United States.
Pakistan is also acknowledging Donald Trump.
Cambodia has acknowledged it as well. And Israel, Netanyahu has always been acknowledging the role of Trump. So US role has been...
Netanyahu has to thank Donald Trump because of what he did by bombing Fordo and other nuclear sites in Iran.
True. And the military support the US gave. US went to war with Iran for that. So obviously Israel has to be thankful for that. But again, as you said, the whole Gaza peace plan looks like an imperial imposition from the outside. There's no Palestinian involvement. There's an international technocratic board which will govern Gaza. And there is an international security force, a stabilization force which will be deployed. So what's the role of the Palestinians?
Why do you think the Islamic countries are in agreement with this plan?
Because they have no leverage.
Turkey has raised some reservations.
But they have no issues with this. As long as the issue is settled, the conflict comes to an end. Almost all the Islamic powers are comfortable with this. Because long ago, they have given up on the Palestinian cause. This goes back to 70s and 80s when the Sunni powers aligned with United States and secretly had a deal with Israel as well. Then Iran now is completely on the back foot. Iran was the only one which was backing the Palestinian extremist factions. So I don't see Israel ever, committing to the creation of Palestine. I think this is at the very root of this conflict. It's fundamental to the peace plan as well. Though they mention that there will be statehood eventually, there's no timeline.
There was no involvement of the PLO either.
No, absolutely no involvement. PLO has been disbanded anyways. It transformed into the Palestinian Authority. And the Palestinian Authority was not even consulted in the peace process. So this is more of a plan devised by United States with Israel, which suits Israeli and American interests. And what's the point of bringing a technocratic board to administer and rebuild Gaza? Gaza has been turned into rubble. Focus has to be on delivering aid.
Maybe that's where you need administrators.
There you would need organizations like the UN. You need international humanitarian organizations to step in and deliver the much needed aid and assistance.
We were glad you raised this topic. Maybe that should be the last point of our discussion. The issue of United Nations, how it is becoming irrelevant day by day. And maybe it is time to abolish United Nations altogether and replace it with a credible institution. The Soviet Union and Afghanistan issue that we discussed in the 1980s, United Nations was an important player responsible for the Soviet Union laying down its arms. United Nations was involved in conflict between Palestine and Israel. European countries were involved. The Oslo Accords, although signed in Washington, but Norway and other European countries played a very important role. Now you see marginalization, or European countries have given up to lead the world. United Nations is absent when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, when it comes to Israel-Palestine conflict or Gaza, completely absent.
Look at the pandemic as well. UN played minimal role during the pandemic. During any recent crisis, UN has almost become irrelevant. Talking about Europe, the sidelining of Europe, I think this has to do with the decline of European power, the stagnation of their economies, the decline of their military power as well. They haven't spent enough on defense. That is one of Trump's legitimate complaints, that European countries haven't spent on their own defense. They have basically taken a ride on American defense spending on NATO. So this has contributed to the general economic, military, diplomatic decline of Europe. Coming to United Nations, this has to do with the very structure of the UN. The structure of the UN is completely outdated. It reflects the geopolitics of 1945, 1950s. I think this is where China has a very interesting proposal. They have recently announced a global governance initiative. It's a brainchild of Xi Jinping. And they don't want to replace UN with a new organization. They want to change the UN. They want to change the global order. And they're asking India to work with them. During the recent interaction between Modi and Xi Jinping, this issue was discussed. Global governance initiative, where China with the global south are trying to push for reforming these institutions so that they become relevant and they play some role, constructive role in these global events. Because as of now, in the last 2 decades at least, UN has been absolutely irrelevant.
Thank you so much, Chetan, for joining us on this first episode of The World That Was. We'll come back next month with another interesting take on important geopolitical events that will shape the world and will have bearing on India. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, do not forget to press the like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. Goodbye.